You dry hop a beer and you get these wonderful aromas out of it. And
Nick Alaria might be a little biased about his favorite beer, but it's for a good reason.
maybe it's because I grew them, but this is one of the best smelling beers I think I've ever popped open.
Alaria owns Yellow Dog Hop Yard in Cabot, where he's been growing hops for the past 3 years. This year, for the first time, he sold them for commercial use.
Just kind of started it on a whim. I was getting into home brewing and I heard hops could grow really well up here, and saw some people snooping around online, saw that they were growing hops up here and having fun with it, so I decided to give it a try.
Hops are a vigorous climbing perennial that grow like a vine, up ropes or poles. Each strand is called a bine and can grow over 25 feet tall. The cone-like flowers that go into beer are usually an inch or two long, and there can be hundreds or even thousands on each plant. Hops were traditionally harvested by hand. Alaria and many other hops growers will tell you that can be extremely time-consuming.
Well, the first year we picked by hand. I got a party of about 10 people up here, and we had a bunch of homebrew and barbecue, and we just sat on a picnic table up there and picked all weekend long, and it took a long time.
If you think picking apples is a daunting task, imagine picking hops. It's just, they never seem to end, and it takes forever to get even a pound.
Matt Nadeau shares the pain of being a small-scale hop farmer with Alaria. Nadeau is the owner and brewmaster at Art Brewery in Morrisville. He has a small hop yard at his own home and enlists his family to help with the harvest.
We just pick and pick and pick till you're just tired of it, and then we call it good.
There are machines that can separate the cones from the bines, but they're expensive and mostly used by large commercial hops growers in the Pacific Northwest. For small-scale growers like Alaria, there was simply no other choice than to harvest by hand. Until now. This new one-of-a-kind machine, developed by the University of Vermont Extension, is changing that.
We're seeing a much greater demand for locally grown hops to support a booming microbrew and craft brew industry in Vermont and in New England in general.
Chris Callahan is an agricultural engineer with UVM Extension. He oversaw the construction of a mechanical hops harvester that saves farmers time and money. It's also portable, which allows it to be a shared resource for this fledgling industry.
The hops harvester takes complete bines, which are cut down in the hop yard, and we hook it up to a feed at the machine, and the feed draws the bine with leaves and cones on it through the machine, where the leaves and the cones are stripped off of the main central bine. The leaves and cones are then separated on a set of inclined belts we call dribble belts. The cones roll downhill on these inclined belts. The leaves generally stick to the belt and get pulled uphill. And so we're separating as well as stripping the plant.
Callahan and his team spent the harvest season traveling around the state, helping farmers with their crops. Tell me about the day that came with the harvester.
Oh, it was awesome. That was Labor Day. He came out to our farm. My father and I had cut all the plants off of the trellis the day before. We brought them into the barn. Chris came the next morning, pulled right up to the barn, and we just started firing bines through the machine, and hop cones were flying off every direction. It was quite a sight to behold.
What if they hadn't come?
I probably would be insane right now, and I probably wouldn't be done picking hops either.
Callahan is still refining the design, which is available for download online. Anyone who wants to can build their own harvester and offer feedback for improvements.
It is still a very labor-intensive process. We've taken it from something that takes an hour per bine to something that takes a minute or less per bine.
Back at Rock Art, Matt Nadeau is talking about his most recent Vermont Hop Harvest beer. He's been making it for the past 6 years, working closely with local farmers so he can time the brewing for when the hops are ready.
This last Vermont hop harvest we did came out really well. It was a nice mix of some Cascade hops, got some Chinook, there was some Brewer's Gold, which was kind of unique. And you're getting those hops as fresh as can be, and they just have a really nice bright spark and flavor and aroma. They just pop out of the glass, and it does make a big difference, you know.
Another big difference is that local growers will drop their hops off at the brewery. That's a change from how Nadeau usually gets them.
Most all the hops for the commercial end of it, all the hops really for that matter, have all been ordered from either Pacific Northwest or from over in Europe. You know, I place an order with a wholesaler, and it'll come to me all packaged up. It comes, very neat blocks, very usable. And you kind of get a disconnect, to the amount of labor and everything that took, and the volume of hops, the sheer volume it takes to fill up even an 11-pound box of hops. So it was really fun to go to Nick's. You're seeing, this very large yard, and these long rows of hop vines growing up through, laden with the hops. So it was kind of fun to see that.
For now, he's getting just enough hops from local growers for one batch of Vermont hop harvest a year. Nadeau is looking forward to a time when he'll be able to make the beer year-round.
I hope a lot of farmers grow, and I hope that we get a lot of good quality hops from Vermont. And I think if they're quality, that they're not going to be able to grow enough.
With help from UVM Extension's mobile hops harvester, this growing industry in Vermont is establishing strong roots. In Alberg, I'm Rebecca Golland with Across the Fence.